Let me introduce to you, to the world, to the universe, Mr. Jamie Clark.
Bobby,
Yeah, oh yeah.
always good, man. Hey, I want to get right into this. I have a good friend, David DeLozier, who is very well rounded in his career. David DeLozier has been a lawyer since the early 1970s, a founder and sole shareholder in the law firm of David DeLozier, PCAK DeLozier Law. The firm motto, live the golden rule. Now, David has been a member of the Arizona business community since 1977. He joined the law firm of Schimmel, Hill, Bishop, and Grunder, PC, and became the head of its Department of Taxation. In 1980, he opened up his own law firm, DeLozier and Bregman, PC, and in 1984, through various acquisitions, he became the president, chief executive officer, and the general counsel to a publicly held and traded over-the-counter company. May I introduce David DeLozier. Brother, what's going on?
Hey, Jamie, how are you?
I'm doing great, and thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy, so we want to have some fun. I wanted to give people a little bit of the flavor of the intelligence and knowledge that you have as a lawyer for so many years, plus the aspect of spirituality talked about in some ways over the years. What got you to be a lawyer in the beginning? What was your draw to that?
I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I saw lawyers in every aspect of human life. So I figured, well, I'll find something that way. Because I had done a couple other things before going to law school.
Excellent. And why did you not choose the other things?
Fairly long story. I graduated from a small Southern Baptist college in East Tennessee with a BS degree in a variety of things. And my speech professor at that time had just come in and been hired there. I think he stayed there 2 years. He was from Northwestern. I never could figure out why somebody from Northwestern would come to our college. But anyway, I ended up getting enough hours in major in speech as well because of him, quite frankly. And he was he would often give speeches at conventions. So he was going to have a speech in New York City and said, I should come along with him. I've never been to New York, so what the heck, right? I've never been out of the hills of Tennessee, hardly, except to West Virginia. Even more hilly, but anyway. He talked me into going across the street from where he was doing his speech to talk to the higher-ups at Columbia University's Teachers College. So I did, and they reluctantly let me into their school, even though I had excellent grades in undergraduate, because they'd never had anybody at their school from my college. So I went on probation, but I got my master's degree in higher and adult education. And I, at the time, decided not to pursue a doctorate degree in education, because at that time I wanted to be a dean of college or some administrator type in a college or university. So I finished that and decided I'd go back and get a job in that field, because there's a lot of small colleges in Tennessee. Figured it wouldn't be a problem. After the 20th interview that I had was at Middle Tennessee State University, where I was at in Nashville and Murfreesboro. And the guy that I was being interviewed by said, "Kid, don't you get it?" I says, "Don't I get what?" And he says, "You'll never get a job in this state. You went to that Northeast Liberal College for your master's degree. So forget about that." So I called my dean and said, "I can't find a job." He said, "Would you teach high school?" I says, "I don't want to, but I will," because I needed something to do. So I taught high school for a year. Being a non-political type in a lot of ways, I took the job and didn't pay any attention to who else was teachers in the school, happened to be in the same school town as where I went to college. So a lot of the kids I went to college with were now teaching at that school. So anyway, in those days you got assigned a home room. I'll try to make it short or shorten. Homeroom is where you do head counts, basically, okay? Turn them into the principal. And about at the end of the first week or so, the principal calls me in and says, "Kid, when are you going to learn to count?" I said, "I don't know really what you mean." He says, "You got too many people absent." I said, "Oh, well, I'll go out and find them and bring them into class, and that way they'll be counted or whatever, you know." I said, "I don't know am I supposed to send a truant officer after them? What am I supposed to do?" He says, "Count them as if they're here, whether they're here or not." Well, that went against one of my early tenets that my maternal grandfather taught me on the stoop outside his home. And he says, "Kid, always tell the truth, and then you won't have to worry about what you said. You won't have to remember what you said." So I told him, "I guess you'll have to do the counting. Won't you take over my, count how many you want? I don't give a damn. It's your school, you're the principal." "Oh, no, that wouldn't work." So he hit me with his fist in the face, knocked me down. He said, you won't be able to get a job here next year." And I said, "I don't think I want one." I got blackballed by everybody else in the school, called everything you could think of, accused of things that are unconscionable, okay? And decided that education probably wasn't the way I was going to survive in this world, if that's the way it works. I now know that they got their money from the state based on average daily attendance as opposed to average daily membership. So it's important for them to lie to keep the money coming in from the state. Well, that's not living the golden rule. That's not telling the truth, so forth. So anyway, I went on and did work for, at the time, President Johnson had a manpower training program. And I did that for a couple of years, but I recognized they get their money every year from the government, so who knows how long that's going to last. In fact, Nixon came in and cut it all out. But anyway, so I wandered around in Knoxville, where I lived at the time, trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I just had to go to law school because I didn't know what else to do. Okay? So that's how.
That's impressive. I'm like, wow, that's a nice choice. Literally in your face. Holy cow. That's old school dealing with it. I don't like you. Boom. Yeah. So as you've been in this for so many years, and I know that you're very spiritually oriented, when did you start tuning in to the angels? When did you start connecting with your spirituality and religious as well?
Well, there's a number of factors that went into the development of that, in my opinion, okay? Number one factor was I was 20 years old when my mother was killed in an automobile accident, and I was mad at God, or whatever Godhead is, okay? And I was mad at my father. I didn't believe what they believed, apparently, about the protection system that is available to the human species, and probably animals too, but that's another story. So I went on this journey of trying to figure out why my mother was selected, if you will, to depart this physical realm, this physical experience, because my position is we're all spirit beings who are having a human experience, okay? So why did her life get cut so short, and why didn't I get to have her for the next 30, 40, 50 years like most people do? Okay? Because it says in the book that I grew up with, God is not a respecter of persons, but he is a respecter of faith. Well, what's faith? Became a journey by itself, okay? Am I supposed to believe in things that I can't see? Yeah, apparently so, according to the way they taught us. Okay? Am I supposed to believe that we've got this unfeeling, unloving thing called God that's going to send people to hell? Just because we don't recite some verse that the church tells us we got to recite? Huh? I mean, and they get to burn there forever? That's not loving your children, I don't think. And if we're all children of God, right? That's what the book says. That's what every book says. Whether you're a Muslim or a Hindu or a Sikh or a Jain or whatever, they all tend to believe that we're all a chip off the old block, if you will, okay? If we're a chip off the old block, that means that we return to the block, okay? In my opinion. We return to the block. Another passage that was problematic for me was it says that God never changes. He's always the same, yesterday, today, and forever. Okay? Then you look in the Old Testament, apparently God changed his mind a whole bunch of times. Okay? Well, which one of those is accurate? So, legal-minded David started questioning everything that didn't fit. Okay? So, you go back to Genesis, and you look at chapter 1, and the rest of Genesis doesn't sound like chapter 1. Okay? Leviticus and Deuteronomy are out there somewhere in Never Never Land, written by somebody who didn't like humans. Okay?
He's right, too.
I'm sorry, but how can you put in there stuff like that? Then you go over to the New Testament, and you got Jesus passing out fish. Well, he didn't eat fish. Okay, he's consistent with Genesis 1:29 and 30. The fruit of the tree and the plant is food for humans. Not animals and not each other, which we've all done in our history. Okay? We've all done it. Yep. We were all cannibals at one time. We all owned slaves at one time. We all did everything that everybody ever did, because you keep coming back until you get some part of it a little bit better. Okay? So, for example, one of my past lives was I lived in a city called Qumran in 100 AD. 100 BC, excuse me. 100 BC. That was inhabited by a group of people called Essenes. Essenes. It's only mentioned one time in the book of Acts. They were the third largest group of people in Jerusalem at the time. Okay, third largest, but they're only mentioned one time. Guess what? Scribes and Pharisees didn't want them in there. Okay, so they aren't in there. If you have people who only tickle your ears, okay, whether it's 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago or 2020, when they're talking to you, then you better not pay attention to your ears being tickled, okay? Because they're not telling you the truth. They're telling you what they think you want to hear. So historically, what the church has done is do that, okay? They've modified it to keep the fold in place, okay? There are folks that are true believers. Don't misunderstand me, okay? True believers think that everything within the four covers of the Quran are the way it is. Everything's in the four corners of the Bible. That's the way it is. You got my friends here that I have on the shelf, my Hindu Bible, okay? Beautiful. You look in the Hindu Bible, same thing, okay? Except there's one story in the Hindu faith that's told about two competing forces, okay? They decided to go to war against each other. And something talked to both of them at the same time. Wonder what that was, okay? And they both woke up one day and says, why are we fighting our brothers? And the war was over. That's right out of the Hindu text, okay? Now, I don't find that anywhere in anything called the Bible. Everybody's always fighting with each other. Everybody's always at each other's throat. We're going to slice your, whatever. We're going to make you slaves. The Essenes had no slaves. That's how far back the prohibition against slavery actually existed, okay, in some quarters, okay? So if the the entity God never changes. Is that true? Or is he subject to his whims and whatever we can tuck him into is being okay?
And
Okay?
notice it's all allowed to be, crazy
Yeah.
as it is.
Okay? So you then start looking at who are we and what rights do we have. So you can attribute rights this way. Have I acquired them on my own, or are they here and available for any human? Okay? Now, that assumes that we had some choice in being here to start with. Okay? I chose to come back here. Did I choose everything that's happened? I don't hope not. I don't think so. Okay? But did it affect who I am? Of course. It made me a better person. Okay? It was a learning process. It was how to treat people, how not to treat people, how to move about in this crazy world. Okay? Low profile is my answer. Okay? I don't want to be a judge. I don't want to be a politician. You know, those are not things that I ever set out to be. But if he never changes, then the kinds of things that are attributable to him, it, they, okay, whoever the Godhead is. For example, one of the things that's always puzzled humans, and I'm sure I'm not the first on this one, but why bother doing all that stuff in the universe, okay, and we're the only ones out there? That doesn't make any sense at all, sorry. You know, there's no way that he'd go through all that trouble, okay, to create all those universes and all those many stars and so forth and so on, just for my pleasure. I don't get any pleasure out of that. I don't even know those things. You follow me? But anyway, the design was for there to be creatures that humans have, both Muslims and Christians at least, and Jews have called angels. Okay? And some of us come away from whatever we've been taught with a thing called guardian angel. Okay? That you've got a guardian angel that's watching over you and all this good stuff. And they don't ever have any conversations with that guardian angel. Okay? The way I believe it was designed is that we were given free will with the right to communicate if we chose to. Okay? So if I choose not to, that isn't the universe's fault. Okay, one place Jesus said, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So one of my mantras became, what don't I know? So I kept asking the universe, what don't I know? Keep feeding me. Okay, I need to know the answer to this. I need to know the answer to that. So you end up with a couple of issues here. One, why do I believe that I can talk to things I can't see? Okay? Well, maybe you can rely on some of the scripture. Jesus said one time that he could call on a legion of angels. He also said we were just like him. Okay? You're entitled to be able to do the same things I did and far greater things than I did because I go to the Father or whatever, okay? I don't know how many times you've walked on water, but I haven't mastered that one yet. Okay? Yet, okay? So anyway, you got the angels. And if you believe anything in that book, you got two stories that are sort of sandwiched pieces. Okay? One is the old book, and allegedly the oldest book, Job. Job is a person who apparently was quite wealthy and had vast spreads of property and cattle, I guess. I don't know what all he had, but anyway, he's very wealthy. He had a lot of friends, and the book says that he had a hedge about him, and no harm could befall him. Okay, that's what the book says. Now, you want to believe the book? I don't know. I don't care whether obviously he didn't have a green hedge around him that was protecting him from all forces. Okay? But then there came a day when he said, the thing that I feared the most has come upon me. So the hedge must have disappeared or couldn't protect him because he was afraid. Okay? So Jesus says, fear not, I am with you always. Okay, that's part of the meat for the sandwich now. But the other part of it is Hebrews 1:13 says that the angels are ministering spirits sent forth by this thing called God, okay, to be servants for those who are heirs of salvation, is what it says in the English version, okay? Okay, but just say heirs. We're all heirs, okay? So what am I supposed, if they're my servant, what am I supposed to do and how am I supposed to treat a servant? I never had a servant. I never had a slave. You follow me? I don't know, but I mean, I don't think it means the same thing that we mean when we say servant. Okay, they can do things I can't do. That's how I define it. Okay, when I bring somebody in to fix my faucet, I can't fix it. When I bring somebody in to do my other parts of my plumbing, I can't do that. You know, so they can do things I can't do. What can they do? Well, everybody probably has some experience with the Serenity prayer. The Serenity prayer says, I'm going to give it to God when I can't figure out how to do it myself. Okay? That's my version, okay?
I would say that's your version.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
And what we do then is we worry after we've given it to them, if we even know we give it to them, which is counterproductive to the request. I'm doubting myself, even though I've asked you to help me, I don't believe you'll help me. Okay?
Was it Jesus that said that the very thing I've been fearful or that I've been afraid of is now come upon us? Was it him or who was it that said that?
Oh, it's Job.
Okay. Because
Job
I'm like,
says, the thing that I feared the most has come upon me.
And the interesting thing is a lot of us have the right intent, but we tend to approach the problem with fear rather than the solution with acceptance. And for me, these natural laws of co-creation, what you send out comes back. And I think you bring up an interesting point where the angels in this case, or guides, have a very strong potential to help you in different capacities. And exactly like you said, if you need to do an air conditioner, you'll call someone who works on an air conditioner, a pool, and so on and so forth. They have their own talents to not do it for you, but do it with you.
With you.
Well, here's the way it works for me anyway. Mm-hmm. I get to a point where I don't know how to handle a situation, whatever the situation may be. Okay? I say, big guys, I'm turning this one over to you. I don't have an answer to this problem, whatever it is. Okay? Explain the situation, which I'm sure they already know. Okay? And guides is a perfectly good word for angels. Okay? But I'm going to leave it up to you to tell me how to handle this situation, for example. Okay? And I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm not going to fret about it anymore. I'm not going to bring it up to you anymore. I'm going to meditate and be quiet until you provide the answer. And I know you will. You always do. Okay? Now, for example, one of the ways that we have learned that my father didn't know about, okay, was the angelic protection system, or the guardian protection system. Okay? You got to surround your house with them. Your property needs to be surrounded by angels. No evil will befall this place. No evil will befall this place. People walk into my place and they say, there's something different here. What is it? I don't know. Okay? Second thing is, whatever circumstance you put yourself in, whether it be a car, an airplane, a train, a bus, whatever, spaceship, so forth, you surround that thing with angels. So, for example, we don't leave home without it. American Express slogan. Okay? We ask the angels front, back, left side, right side, top and bottom, fully enclosed. Do the same thing when I get on an airplane. Always get there. Uh, silly little things like parking spaces. Yeah, I've been known to get parking spaces. Okay.
How do you think that
Asking you shall receive is what the big guy said. Okay.
act as though I am and I will be?
Exactly. So now the issue you got with that with some people, of course, is how can I believe that that'll work? Well, sometimes they'll prove to you it'll work. I was coming back from an animal rights convention a few years ago on 10 and moved on to 101 North, on the west side. And I went around this bend in the road, and there was this car parked perpendicular with his headlights on the guardrail and his rear end in the traffic lane that I was in. There also happened to be a Mustang to my right, and there was no place for me to go. Hello?
Oh, I'm listening. Yeah.
Collision, no. Collision, yes. No, my car moved. Something picked up my car and moved it into a safe lane, and I kept going.
Now, did you physically conscious of it that it was moving, or was it a dimensional shift to go, whoa, hey, when I found myself, what happened? How did that work for you in this case?
I didn't know I was moving. I just knew that it moved, and I just said thank you and kept going. I didn't even look back.
Exactly.
That's one of those things that I had told Jamie about one time, and when I was in the car when I died the first time.
You
Yeah.
want to share that, Bob?
You were in, I was in a lane. I was doing 70 miles an hour. My mother had a stroke. So I was on the way to the hospital because she was deemed brain dead. So I am flying. There's a mountain that I have to go around on this highway. So I'm going around the highway. And then as I'm going around, there's cones and that right there out of nowhere. And there's two dump trucks, state size, the ones that the tires are bigger than you if you're 6 feet. Those kind of trucks. Right there. I could not move to my left because there was a little kid with its face up against the window in the car right next to me. So I would not and could not move over. Next thing I know, I wake up in a hospital because I was dead on the highway because I went 75 feet out the front window of the truck that I was driving. So was there an angel? Yes. You know who it protected the most? The kid that I could have killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it knew that it was going to give me life back on the other side.
Exactly.
Literally on the other side of that circumstance, like, holy.
Exactly. So the protected person was the kid.
And yet everything moved around him.
Yes.
That's the power we all have.
And the big one, my mother came back, the brain turned on at the time of the accident.
Is that powerful?
You want to talk about power. I mean, we're talking about, all those wires, all those connections, all those thoughts, all that energy was all together at the same instant.
Exactly.
Somebody turned it on.
Same frequency, everything adjust. That's beautiful.
Yes.
And
then my mother was up for a number of months. It took me a number of months to get out of bed because I was pretty messed up. But by the time I did get out, it was about 3 months later. They had put her into like a home where you get better after hospital, and like that. And I went to visit her, and just like I am right now. I walked in and I saw her and everything else. Now we went in, and she was very happy in that I was okay and everything was fine. And she heard that all about it. She told me all about the accident. How she knew about it, I don't know, because I don't know who told her. But went through the whole thing. She asked after I left, and it was snowing. In fact, when I left, it was ridiculous. She was like, "No, you can't leave. It's snowing." But I said, "Don't worry about it. I'm fine." So I leave the place. She asked the nurse that's on the floor at that time, was I okay? And the nurse, because the nurse told me the whole story later, she said to her, no, he's fine. He's a great boy, and that he's very nice, very polite, blah blah blah. So my mother turned around and she said, "You sure he's okay?" She said, "No, he's perfect. He's fine. The big, tall, dark-headed, guy." So okay. That night, my mother died in her sleep.
Wow.
As long as I was, now don't forget, when I died, her brain turned on. When she was in the hospital and finally saw me that I was okay, she passed on. Now that is, it's a story that I tell a lot of people, and they still nobody can believe me. When I talk to them, except if we have like you have expanded realizations of life.
Well, and you experience it firsthand. Then it's like, holy crap, I don't understand, but I just experienced it. Not secondhand, firsthand.
Exactly.
That's huge.
So if
And I
Well,
anybody
think,
tells
the
me
fun part about it too is that is the opportunity for it to be almost mundane because nothing ever bad happens.
right,
they're doing their job.
yeah,
Yes.
You know,
yeah,
you go all over this world and you're safe. I had an experience. I went to Africa and everybody told me that it was really dangerous. They scared the hell out of my wife, caused her to buy $1 million policy on my life. Told me that I was going to have everybody's going to have their hands out. I never had a safer trip in my life. Nobody asked me for a dime. Okay, I don't know.
Did you pray for safety? Did you just, hey, I'm good? How did that work for you on that particular trip?
I just had this assurance that everything was going to be okay.
Your own realization, your own knowingness that I don't know, but it's going to be okay. I know it.
Yeah.
See, I think that brings up a very interesting point. You won't always understand it, but you'll feel that energy. And to me, feelings are the language of the soul. Words are the language of the mind. And it seems like, you've had such a very practical, effective life, one, in learning to represent other people from the Bible in those days to go, well, these people don't necessarily have that. I want to speak the truth. I want to be able to share that insight. And then seeing that you give that power effortlessly to the angels in this case and allow them to do their job. In addition, I believe that the Jewish faith is into mediumship, which I didn't necessarily realize. I believe it's Seder, that they sit down
Yeah.
and then you open the door and Elijah, come in and have some din-din with us. Isn't that mediumship, connecting with a being outside of a physical body?
sure,
And yeah, well, and that's the point.
sharing a
As
meal.
Yeah, and just sharing the love. But my point is that's a metaphysical being, not in the physical form, spiritual form. Everything's spiritual, but that energy vibration is now casually and empoweringly go, come on in. There's no difference between that person being and anyone else. Just like JC, hey, what I do, you can do it even more. Bada boom, do you want to? Never pushed it, always offered it.
Well, it's one of the funny things about some of these quote religions. They get off on, for example, reincarnation. It was a huge obstacle for a lot of faiths. Okay,
Until
and
scientifically.
well, all you got to do is read the Bible. It's right there in the Bible. They asked him who John the Baptist was, and he says Elijah returned. Hello? What part of that can't you read? But yet they've, it's against their religion, whatever.
Well, and that's a beautiful aspect. There's as many roads and worlds as there are perceivers, but each one finding their own unique way. And I think once we have our own life experience and have an understanding the best that we can of that connection to our own spirituality in any way, it becomes much more acceptable, much more matter of fact. Because I'm very honored. I love doing this. And over the past number of years, I have a lot of people coming to me from all of these different beautiful religions that their pain is outweighing their fear of condemnation from the big guy. And I'll be like, they'll be like, hey, Jimmy, I've never done this before to see you, and my church don't look too kindly on it. And I'm like, well, first, congratulations for having the guts to sit here. Second, to me, let's just get a basic meaning of mediumship. To me, a basic meaning is to consciously connect with a being, a spirit, and outside of the physical body. They'd be like, yeah? I'm like, okay, so with that definition, if you talk to God, the angels, Jesus, you're doing mediumship. And I'm willing to bet with that particular style, you're hoping and praying for life-changing miracles and instant communication. And they're like, yeah. And then after the session, I'm very honored, but I always say, if it's mediumship and I'm good, your people are great. And when their loved ones can come through with personalities and characteristics, go, there's no way you could know that except we know it, becomes opening their soul. It takes them out of their mind and into their soul. And when you can make those connections, you know your loved ones, you know the personalities and characteristics, all that kind of stuff. I'm just a regular person. All I'm doing is using my abilities that we all have, just like JC used to do. And do you want to use it? What level do you want to take it to? That is huge, because for that connection to be there, a lot of these people have created that bridge to go, here's my religion and it's beautiful. But I also understand that apparently there's more to it than what I thought. I'm like, perfect. Always question everything. Be skeptical about everything. Just be open. That way we have that connection. And I think that you bring up an interesting point, Dan, and that is for the angels and parking spaces. Hey, here you go. Bada bing. Help me out. And it tends to happen. Now they're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now all they do is release it to go, my end result is on finding the parking space, not having a hassle to do it, just finding a parking space. You let them do their work, so to speak. And that creates that experience. In the beginning,
Exactly.
yeah, people are like, God, you're so lucky. What a coincidence. I'm like, yeah, luck. There is none. And that precision, when you know, like I do, if you're living your truth and you're having those experiences, a lot of people are like, it's real. I don't understand it, but it's freaking real. And to be able to live your truth in whatever way that is, to be able to be a part of humanity, not negated, but integrated. And I think that you bring up a lot of interesting points, because there are so many different perspectives. Not everyone has an idea of clarity of what to accept as a reality. And so you get enough, you're like, I don't know what to believe, whatever. And then they kind of.
Well, number one is 24/7. Okay? You're in constant communication. Okay? The radio's never turned off, pardon the expression, Bob. Okay? But the radio's never, the frequency is always there.
Always there.
It's a question whether I'm aware of it being there. And if I'm aware of it being there, maybe I don't think it's for me. Okay? Or if I know it's there and I don't think it's for me, I don't think it'll work even if I try it. So I've destroyed all possibilities already of any good coming from it. Okay?
Don't forget
all I've done is bellyache. And when you complain, you remain. Okay? Whatever you're complaining about isn't going to change just because you're complaining about it. And if you can't stop complaining about it and ask the guides, the angels, or whatever to solve this problem and turn it loose, okay? And that's the secret. You got to turn it loose, because, there's all kinds of people that sit around and worry all the time. Am I going to get this? Am I going to get the corona? Hell no, I'm not going to get the corona. I'm just not going to get it. Okay? I mean, it can't hurt me. There's just no way that I will have it. Okay? There's no way. There's just no way. It just doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. Okay?
No.
I know that it's harmful to a lot of people. I don't know the reasons for it. I do know that nutrition, I think, has a lot to do with it, because we're talking about the majority of the people who are dying from that disease today are obese. Okay? Heart trouble.
A lot of pre-existing conditions.
Pre-existing conditions, etc. I would guess that you're looking at maybe 5 or 6% of the 200,000+ that actually didn't have a pre-existing condition that actually died.
Yeah, they said 6%.
Yeah, but what happens is the hospitals get more money from the government for every COVID death or every COVID patient. Follow the money. Okay? Another way to say it. I know that's digressing, but they've scared the hell out of us all. That's the problem. And whatever I'm afraid of is going to come upon me. Simple as that. If I'm not afraid, it can't hurt me.
Not only that, you bring up an interesting point. What you're not afraid of isn't going to hurt you. What you keep fearing is only feeding that energy. As much as you can negate the negative, you can attract the positive too. I mean, they're both ends of the same spectrum, right? If I don't accept it, I'm not going to get it. Well, if I do accept it, I will. I've just learned to create my own reality through that realization of this reality, accepting it already there. I think you bring up an interesting point, David, and that is about the reincarnation thing. And I'm into that spirituality and quantum physics, now becoming spiritual physics, doing all those tests and all that good stuff. But in addition, I believe that scientifically, that basically every 7 years, you have basically a whole new body, almost 50 trillion cells.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. If you have a whole new body every 7 years, who is the you, the constant thinker within each of those new bodies? Your consciousness, your soul print of consciousness.
Right.
You know, and it's those practical aspects that eternal energy, what the frig is that? And my thing is, again, in the scientific way, one, that they've found that we are basically energy, vibrational frequency, you know, vibrational light target and all that. And then I believe in quantum physics, they have scientifically validated that energy can neither be created nor destroyed.
Thank you.
Exactly. So if that's the point, we are eternal, as crazy as it is. And those frequencies, those connections of the reality, what can we hold within our reality that works for us individually, that's not going to push you over the edge, but empower you to share that love and empowerment with others if you choose. You know, there's that kind of a connection that the big guy, he, she, it, nothing, 0 point field, whatever you want to call it. Do you really think that that negative energy would be allowed there if it were outside of God? It's all consciousness. It's all within the ocean of consciousness. But those dark droplets that are at the bottom of the ocean are no less than the ones near the top where it's light. And do we realize through, you know, natural laws kind of thing that those bottom droplets cannot ascend into the higher light droplets without matching that light? You don't see dark droplets taking over the ocean unless it's an oil spill. It's if you're at that level, you shine with that level. If you're here, you're here. If you're down here, you're down there. And it's all allowed to be. We all ebb and flow. Anyone who claiming only to be of the light, to me, is ignorant, because we're the whole ocean. How could you not? It just depends on what vibe, what channel, what frequency you want to stay on, what you want to connect on, to me. So, you know, in doing this 55 years, it's just, this is not only what I do, but who I am. And you've had your own experience. That's why I wanted to get you on, is the practical. You're very intelligent. You know the laws. Plus, you're very spiritually oriented. That's huge. If you can get the practicality of spirituality, that's more empowering. Because people know, okay, so you can do this and not be one of them. You're very practical. And so what's that thing you're saying? Yeah. Huh.
Okay.
Oh, and I just want to share.
The 13 major religions all have a version of the Golden Rule. Okay.
And what's that Golden Rule thing again? Which one is that one?
Oh. Well, it depends on which one you read, but most of them are basically treat other people the way you want to be treated.
Now, here's the thing. I just want to bring up the point, just from my awareness and having the experience consistently, or if you graduate life, is people like, you know, never know what you're doing to them. And I can only speak for me, but I have that life review instantly. Bip, and I become everybody I've interacted with, feel every energy exchange in every way, and come back to me going, how'd you treat yourself? I'm like, holy... To me, it's not negated, it's integrated. Whatever you're doing to another, you are doing to yourself, because in the end, it will play back. No karma, cause and effect.
Right.
You put out bad energy, you'll get a vibrational match of bad energy. You put good energy, you'll get a vibrational match of good.
Yeah.
Those who talk about lack are living it. Those who talk about abundance are living it. And you don't see successful people going to say they're a failure. And just like you know, it's not easy to go, I just know I'm going to be safe. And they'll be like, yeah, sure. Until you're always safe, and then we move beyond this to go, well, I don't know how you did it, but you said you did it, and apparently you did. Yeah. Those outcomes, that's when it gets more solid, is people go, no, Dave said it, and we weren't sure, because other people are getting it in a crazy way. And then through all of that, he even had interconnectedness, and he still was safe. I think that brings up an interesting point. When people can see your own life experience, and you share that, and you're living your truth, and they're liking it. They're like, Dave, how did you do that? Because they're only seeing the tip of the iceberg above the surface of consciousness. The rest of the tools, techniques, and knowledge are below the surface of consciousness. That kind of thing is where they go, that's lucky and coincidence, until they realize it's cause and effect.
Yeah, the person I am today is a result of decisions that I've made several times over the years. Okay, and some of them were choices, some of them were you had to choose something. Okay, Now, for example, in about 2008, I guess it was, something like that, 7, 6, 5, whatever, I weighed 225 pounds. I was told by 2 heart surgeons that I needed heart surgery. I was told by other doctors that I had other issues. And I had a choice to make. Okay? Did I want to end up with a COVID-19 pre-existing condition, or even maybe dead before COVID hit? Or did I want to pay attention to the spirituality that exists, okay? So today I'm 165, have been that for many years. If I go to the gym, it tells me I'm 165 on the machine. I said, okay, whatever. I had been for 60 some years a participant in what I call the standard American diet. If I saw it, I ate it.
That's my seafood diet. Yep.
Yeah. But I started looking around, and Genesis 1:29 says we're supposed to be plant eaters. Okay? So I said, well, must be a reason for that. And then I saw over there in those other books where God changed his mind and let him start doing this and that. And even Jesus turned over the tables in the temple and drove out the money changers. He was after them stopping the slaughter of animals, but that's a whole other story that we'll have to deal with another day. But anyway, that for me was the ideal way to go, was become a vegan. Okay? And I don't have any of that. I went to Mayo several months after I had been told by 2 heart surgeons I needed heart surgery. And they put me on a stress test and said, what the hell are you doing here? You got a heart of an 18-year-old. Did my heart get remade? I guess. Okay, who knows? Did I have any of those other problems like high blood pressure, high cholesterol? No. They were all gone too. So for me, that worked. And that was consistent with what I read as the ideal diet, if you will, for the human race. That was one of the reasons that I fell in love with the Essenes, because they were vegetarians. They did drink goat's milk and ate honey, which I don't do either one of those, but that's another story.
Don't say that too. Don't say it the wrong way. I was raised on goat's milk.
Goat's milk. My dad used to drink
Yeah.
goat's milk because he had ulcers. But I was told by a young internist back in the 70s when I developed an ulcer because I was working 300 hours a month, billing 300 hours a month for that law firm, drinking 2 or 3 pots of coffee and smoking 3 or 4 packs of cigarettes a day, that I had an ulcer, and he said, quit doing dairy in 1978. Did I quit? Nope. Wait till 2005 or whatever. Okay. But anyway, the story is that for me it is trying to tune into the vibration system that was intentionally put in place for us. That includes, to me, the guides or the angels or whatever you want to call them. Okay, as a source of ability to transcend the mundane, day-to-day life failures. Okay, have life successes instead of failures. Okay, that's and I can't have successes by myself. Okay, I recognize my own limitation there. Speaking of mothers, I got to digress just for a moment. I was always concerned about my mother, what she was doing on the other side, all this stuff. Well, one day I had a conversation that was very short. She said, stop. That's what my mother said, stop. Leave me alone. You're holding me back. Okay, let me go. One-sided conversation. Did I hear voices? No. It was some kind of communication that I haven't figured out yet that somehow comes in a wavelength that I can't see, that penetrates this brain of mine and gets embedded somewhere inside, and that's what the angels do also. They talk to me that way. I
They're like a
get
cell phone.
signals. I don't get words. I haven't heard any words.
But you vibe it. You get it. That's your way of connecting
Yeah.
and communicating. That's perfect. That's the point. They know how to communicate. So if you're not doing one thing, they're not going to keep doing it if you're not tuning in. That's
Right.
how, at least to me, they're well vibed, depending on how many angels and who you want to work with. But they know your energy vibration, that quantum physics and all that good stuff. That type of a dynamic is also what got me interested into Jesus and floating on water and doing all that kind of stuff to go, what if back then he was into that science and realized that we're 99.99999% nothingness? And what if he was able to shift that frequency and that vibe in order to tune into the lightness of nothingness and begin to walk on water, levitate and float like them planets in space, and those dynamics to go, what I can do, you can do even more. They needed to hear that. What if potentially the angelic realm and others were just reminders to go, everything's energy. What do you want to connect with it?
Mm-hmm.
Good, bad, happy, sad. It's only relative to what we perceive is, to my awareness. Because what's good for one may not be good for the other, and vice versa. And the worlds are created by each one of us.
Well, one of the things that my studies did was to try to track JC's life. Okay. And one of the things that I learned that from the Dead Sea Scrolls, if you're familiar with those,
I've heard of it.
they were discovered in a cave in the remote area by some goat herders, believe it or not.
Wow, it sounds like that was your cousins. Apparently, Dad
Yeah.
waking up from goat's milk.
These scrolls had been carefully maintained and secured in sealed bottles. And they apparently were written sometime around 100 to 300 AD, 100 BC to 300 AD. And they described the life that existed in their community, the Essenes community. And one of the things that was really fascinating was I could be in the bed with my wife and be next door counseling you at the same time, physically. Okay? Now that's what they were experiencing in their home, in that environment where he grew up.
Yeah.
Okay? If a guy came in, he'd been playing and broke his arm, they fixed it the same afternoon. Okay? There was instantaneous healing in that community.
Why do you think that was?
Because they believed that they could have it. Okay? If you don't believe you can have anything, you'll never get it. Okay? I mean, it's simple as that, Did I believe I wouldn't get a law degree? Hell no, I knew I would, one of those things. We don't undertake things that we know we're going to fail at, generally. I'm sitting here talking to a client today, and I said, you're going to lose if we go to court. How you want to settle this thing? Since spending money going to court, you're going to lose.
That's great that you're straight up like that. Not everyone has that kind of response.
Now, it's money is only a temporary commodity that you have to have in this environment.
Right, but your problem's in style.
Integrity is something you can't buy. Okay?
And worth more than money.
Okay.
Priceless, exactly. And I think being able to place that value, for me now, the more love, energy, attention, and compassion I give myself is no longer narcissism, it's self-realization. I cannot give what I do not have. And most of us, run on empty. And the ability when they can see people who are making their own connections in whatever way, and you're living your truth, then it's more accepting. Because for myself, if I'm talking to anyone, I'm talking to them and I'm looking at them as the end result of whatever it is they're talking about. And in that case, you know what? You live in your truth, beautiful. But if you're talking about things and you're not living your truth, I kind of equate that like you're 800 pounds at a gym telling people, I'm going to show you how to look good. And they'll be like, wow, that's great intent, but not quite the end result I'm looking for.
Exactly.
I think that's the point is they'll give you a pattern of what we see as success in a spiritual manner, but it's fluid. Do you want to get to this level? Do you want to go beyond it? Do you want to stay below it? Because most of us equate that We're nothing in comparison to Jesus, or whatever the case is. And it's truly actually the opposite. They're just brothers and sisters just like we are, just like our ETs. We're extraterrestrials to everyone else. It's kind of a relative term. But it's that kind of practicality of spirituality when we start to have these and then realize that, okay, so maybe it's not so much karma, but natural laws that exist within this universe, that cause and effect kind of thing.
There's a couple of books I probably should mention before we get off.
Please do.
One is called The Journey of the Souls,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is called Destiny of the Souls.
And who's the writer of that?
It's a psychologist, so it fits into your.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember his name. It starts with a B, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Something like that. But basically, what he does is have volunteers who submit to deep hypnosis and have them explain to him what they experience when they're not in a body.
What does that tell you? We live only one life, an eternal life, but each life is a minute in the hour in the day, and each of those days goes into our Solodex of self-realization.
You get to pick whether you want to come back or stay or not.
Yeah.
And
he's also talking about regression.
Exactly. Right. As you and I have done, soul trade.
Right.
Exactly. And interesting, but well, this is life between lives. Well, guess what? It's the eternal breath. I say we live our entire life in one breath. When we come in, we breathe in. And when we go out, we breathe out. The ability to just breathe is huge. You know, and we could get into the meaning of JC and whether he's real or not. And if he's not real, it's even more powerful because we've shifted time as we perceive it. BC and AD. What about the 33 years in between it? Or is that nothing? Wait a minute. What if that is the nothingness? That is the everythingness kind of.
Well, I think I know what he did between 12 and 30.
Besides being trained by some others, or in addition?
Well, actually, his uncle was in the shipping business. He's the one that they allegedly put his body in the tomb. Same guy. Anyway, he supplied metal to the Roman Empire, and he gathered the metal from various places in the world. One time he would go to England, and Jesus would go with him and get dropped off, and he would study with the Druids. Okay? Next time he would go to India, and Jesus would go with him, and he'd get dropped off there, and he studied with the Hindus and the Jains. Jains have been around forever, you know. They're probably one of the oldest, quote, religions in the world. But I hadn't heard of it before, and it's the only group that includes animals in their golden rule of all the other space. That's the only one that includes animals. But in any event, they also have a city in the area of the Jains that is illegal to kill an animal or to eat one, and you'll be arrested if you do either one of those.
Wow.
Okay, put in jail. But anyway, so the journey includes looking at a variety of presentations. So once you get to where Journey of the Souls is, you want to know more. So Destiny of the Souls came along, is my point. Okay, Destiny is where you make choices. For example, one of the things that one lady said was she wanted to work in the nursery where new souls were being born, created, new energy sources coming out, okay?
Big up.
And she wanted to work with those people that were brand new first timers, if you will. So if you believe that, God's still creating beings, still creating energy sources, still creating life forms. Where the hell is he putting them all? Okay, I mean, so that's why I believe that somewhere out there's a whole bunch of others that are populated too. I don't understand, and I haven't bothered to try to find out what the purpose for all this is.
To live, to experience.
Yeah, but I also say that we are the youngest.
Like, oh, isn't that cute?
Yeah. We
We
are.
probably are. We're the dumbest, that's for sure.
That's well, dumb comes with being little and not being able to realize how to get away, how to get out of your own way.
And I think that brings up a very interesting point before we go, is that look at how much variety JC's doing. Hey, I'll go do this and I'll go study that and I'll do this. Hello, he was giving the roundedness of his soul expression. Go, hey, here's a piece of information, here's this, here's that. Hey, a little bit of something for everything. There, that works. He didn't negate everything. It sounds like he integrated things.
Well, you see, one of the most interesting things he said to me was, there's many more things I could tell you, but you're not able to handle it. Okay?
That's what a lot of our brothers and sisters say elsewhere. You guys don't have a big enough comprehension for that. I'm like, oh, try me. Try me.
That's the reason my mantra became, what don't I know?
And, I think that's a big point, is to always, be straight up, just like you're saying, but also be humble. I know that the more I know, I don't know nothing, man, but I'll share my perspective. That's the point.
I barely scratched the surface as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point.
But anyway, that's what he did between 12 and 30, is my version. So he came back with this conglomeration of first 12 years he's taught in the Essene community, and then he goes over to these other places and gets a little bit of this and a little bit of that and so forth. He never, in my opinion, he never intended to start Christianity. Okay? That's something Paul and his buddies made up. Okay? Jesus. But anyway, don't get me started on that.
Jesus, what the?
Yeah, there's more big fights between Paul and Joseph, Jesus' brother, over what they're going to do with this new thing, religion thing. They fought all the time.
And so, Dave, how can people get a hold of you?
How can they get a hold of me? Well, if you want to do it from a standpoint of computer contact, they just type in DeLozier Law and it'll come up with the website and you can access it that way. Okay.
And you're still open to take new clients?
Pardon me?
Are you able to take new clients on? Because I know you're very busy, so I want to make sure if they're calling that they might have an opportunity for your service.
We talk to everybody.
Cool. Perfect.
We talk to everybody that calls. We then decide if we're the right fit for them. If not, we try to find them a fit that is better.
Awesome.
Okay. So yeah, obviously, if you want to do by phone, phone's on the website, but it's.
Do you want to give it to them real quick? If you
are 602. My direct line is 602-989-1759. I answer my own phone. I don't have a staff that answers the phone. You got to put on hold and all that crap. You didn't call for, be put on hold and leave messages or whatever, So if I answer the phone, you got me.
Yep,
if you don't answer the phone, leave a voicemail and I'll call you back. Simple as that.
Perfect.
I don't use unnecessary staff.
Well, and you're a great guy, and I've always appreciated your knowledge of law and what you do, and your awareness of the spiritual essence of being. So it's really nice. That's why I wanted to get you on, to give people the practicality of spirituality. It doesn't matter what we do in law. If you're open, you're open. If not,
right.
You're not. Perfect. So thank you, David.
The guy I was talking to a minute ago was a tree trimmer. Okay, his daughter left with one of my Golden Rule posters. Okay?
Beautiful. And I think that's powerful when you can just be yourself and yet people get a different perspective going, I've heard that stuff 1,000 times, but click, that's the first time I see it that way. Oh, okay, you know what? I haven't seen it that way. And I've learned that it's the same circumstance, but a different way of seeing it that brings a different emotional response to it, either less fear or more knowingness or empowerment or all of that. And I think it's that what we don't understand, we tend to fear, and what we tend to feel, we want to crucify on average.
Well,
so now,
part of what is we try to do is, of course, to behave as if whatever the client's problem is our own. Okay? It's another way to describe,
nice.
The golden rule, if you will. Okay? It becomes my problem. Now, the ones that we have the most difficulty with, the client never lets go of the fear. They want to hang on to, and they want to, and they're always worried about how it's going to turn out or whatever. If we can get them to stop that, a whole lot easier.
It's a whole different vibe, definitely.
So I just generally tell them the way I believe it is, and if they don't like it, they can leave, you know.
At least you're straight up, right? You're not having to think about the
Oops.
crap that you left and think of 30 more things to cover it up. It's like, just say it. If you got it,
Well,
say
the
it.
other
Not-
the,
no.
the other interesting thing about our practice is that we don't advertise. You'll never see my name on the side of a bus or on a billboard. Personally, I think it's unethical, but that's my opinion.
Well, and you're fortunate enough to be on the radar screen enough that even though you don't advertise, people know you're around.
Yeah,
That's
well, I'll give
fantastic.
you an illustration of that. We helped a guy with a car accident, which one of my staff does full time, about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. His kid gets in the car accident. Who's his kid call? Us, because we helped his daddy. 99% is referrals, in other words. So, you know,
Yeah, that's the best form of advertising.
I
I'm
think
very
so.
honored. I've got the same one. You know the people are there if they've been through it. You know you can trust them. They're friends or
Right.
they're connections. So beautiful. Dave, thanks for joining us, and I appreciate it. And definitely you and I will be talking soon.
Look
Bobby,
forward to it.
always good. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you.
lots of love.
David, Jamie, wow, what a show. We definitely have to do this again, right, Dave?
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, yeah. I want to tell everybody, hey, listen, all the information that you have, it's on bobcharlesshow.blogspot.com. All the information about David and an address to get him at. And if you need his telephone number, come on, I'll tell you. But anyway, God bless y'all, world. Pyramid One World Network. God bless y'all. Bob
And
Charles.
you.